Okay, members of viewing audience on YouTube who've joined us this evening, welcome. Members of council, we'll call the meeting to order. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of the Caldwell First Nation of the Three Fires Confederacy and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced the stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We'll have a moment of silent reflection, and then we'll stand for the singing of O Canada. I think we had technical difficulties there. I didn't hear any sound, but I was singing. That's why I'm mute. Okay, members of council, any conflict of interest for items on the agenda? Seeing none, adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 25th, 2022 be adopted as presented. Councillor Reno and Councillor Levicio Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Mayor's comments, I have a couple. A public engagement campaign for the 3 fire station model began last week and will be open until Sunday, March 6th. Excuse me. If you are interested in our plans to improve the level of fire service as the town grows, visit our website and or social media pages. Visit Play Speak website and leave your comments and questions. As residents of our town, your engagement in local initiatives is important to us. We want to share our plans and also hear from you. The Walmer Complex reopened last Monday on January 31st. Welcome back to everyone that has attended the center. It is great to see the complex busy and full of energy again. Take a look at what we have planned for the winter session at lasalleactive.ca. Register for swim lessons, fitness memberships, and much more. Thank you. Okay, President, we have item E1, fee waiving policy, and I believe that is Ms. Finero.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. The report and policy before you is in regards to the reduction and waiver of fees related to the rental of town facilities. The Culture and Recreation Department and the Parks, Recreation and Events Committee often receive requests to consider waiving or reducing fees for a variety of reasons. There's a need to have structure and consistency around these fees. The continued return to events and activities, coupled with the anticipated opening of the Waterfront Event Center, has made this even more apparent. The fee waiving policy will provide guidelines to apply uniformly to every event and rental. This will ensure a fair and equitable process for everyone by charging fees in accordance with the user fee bylaw and only reducing or waiving fees in exceptional circumstances. The full policy is included in the agenda, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Venero. Any questions? Councillor Reynolds.
No questions, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank Patty because I see that the fail-safe mechanism for that is to go back to the committee. As I see in our next agenda, we have one already. So I'm glad to see that there is an alternate route if people need a little extra explanation. So thanks for putting that in there.
Okay, council's pleasure. Moved by Sue Duzarle, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Now we have LaSalle Smoke Coast Waterfront Experience Phase 1A tender results, and we have Michael Capucci to join us. Hey, Michael.
Good evening, members of council. This report is brought forward to you regarding the Small Coast parking lot as part of Phase 1A. It went out for bid in early January, and the results are within the report. This is part of the overall Small Coast project. The parking lot came within budget, under budget, and so we are recommending going forward with the project and beginning as early as we can, because there is some waterworks that we'd like to get in completed before some IRCA restrictions.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Council, questions? Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Your Worship. To you, Michael, I just wanted to know what type of waterworks are we looking at, things that need to be done down there?
There's just a slip there existing, and to drain the parking lot, we're going to be outletting into the slip there. That's already the marina has a little slip, so we'll just be tying into there just this storm sewer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Just a quick question. Underneath the tender results, it says the prices presented above have been corrected due to addition errors. Is that an error on our part or an error submitted by Sterling Ridge, or since that is
I can explain that. It was just with the way their tender values were submitted, it came in with HST. So when we were evaluating all the tenders side by side, some had HST in the overall sum, some didn't. So we had to just adjust that so that they were all we were all looking at the same values, all without HST or all with HST essentially. And so that's why that asterisk is there.
Thanks, Michael. Mr. Morrow, you want to add something?
Yes, further to Mr. Capucci's explanation there. This is not, this is typical. What we end up doing when we get tenders is making sure all the calculations and the math is correct and they carry through the right decimal points and all of that type of stuff. Sometimes when you're talking about the magnitude and scope of a tender such as this, those things don't always get carried through properly. So we do our due diligence and we report those inconsistencies as part of this process so that everyone sees it. And certainly it is not an uncommon scenario to see that there is corrected and or errors that occur, but the general outcome of the tender and the unit price contract always governs. The unit prices get carried through, and we ensure that those get carried through properly and all totaled up at the end. So this is how we bring these errors to light and bring them forward as part of the process.
Thank you very much. And then I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support Councilor Reynolds. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Capucci.
Thank you.
We have strategic plan update, Ms. Hodrick.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bondi and members of council. The report before you tonight reviews the LaSalle 2050 strategic plan. It's one of many plans that have been adopted by council over the years. They're guiding documents that help administration to make future plans and decisions. The strategic plan helps to determine the future direction of LaSalle into the year 2050. This plan can be reviewed and amended as we go through the years if needed. Within the report are examples of departmental projects that were started and or completed in 2021. This shows how the projects are directly tied to the goals of our strategic plan. And all of these are included in each department's budget and business plans that are presented to council annually. Also included in the report is a list of projects that are scheduled for 2022 and how each ties into the strategic plan. In addition to these projects that are overseen by each department, there are also projects that are tied directly to the strategic plan. These projects and the strategic plan budget now falls under the strategy and engagement department. Also attached to the report, you will find a 2022 budget, as well as a forecasted budget for 2023 to 2026. Beginning in 2023, administration intends to increase the strategic plan budget by $75,000 each year to be approved by council during the budget session. And this will allow us to continue with future projects moving forward towards meeting our strategic plan goals. For example, some of the past projects that have been initiated through council questions like the tree replacements and signage of significant natural areas now falls under the strategic plan budget and our projects that we'll be working towards in the future. Going forward, we do intend to report regularly back to council about the strategic plan and the initiatives and where we sit amongst all the goals. If you have any questions tonight, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Councillor Renaud, then Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, Your Worship. To you, Don, I was wondering, or to Joe, I guess, either way. I was wondering if there's any idea of when strategic committee meetings may be starting again, if that's something that we have looked at.
Thank you for the question. Maybe I'll start with the answer, and Don can jump in anytime. I think from the strategic planning side, we haven't had the subcommittees for some time. We're looking at reviewing all the committee structures across the municipality in 2022 and looking to see how we can integrate the existing committees with our strategic planning process. So it'll be the subject of a further report as we go forward. For the time being, I would suggest that at least until mid-year, we'll probably be in a position where those committees will be on hiatus at this point.
I think just to add to that, I think we did find in the past that there was a lot of duplication at those committees at that committee level and then sending things forward to council. And there was also, I think some council members were getting some of the information from some of the committees and not always. So we were trying to find a way to mitigate that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Akpata, then Councillor Carrick.
Comment, Your Worship, to Joe and to Don, just so you know, with school starting back again, I've got one of my two in civics, and this was an outstanding introduction to civics. I always ask them when I get things like this that I can share, what do you think of what you're doing? And I got thumbs up from some of the younger people in the community. So I wanted to let you know that my validation comes from showing it to younger persons who understood it, could articulate it back, and said that I needed to give you a thumbs up on the project. So I wanted to make sure that I have peace in my household and that I delivered the comments accordingly. Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councillor Akpata, but I have to ask you, did that come with a bribery, the endorsement?
No, it came with a promise to make sure that the recycling goes out and that the bins will come back in without, undue poking.
Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, John, just a comment in regards to the natural area signage. That's been asked for many years, and it's a long time in coming, and it's an opportunity to show our residents just exactly how many areas there are in the town of LaSalle that are protected. So it's great that the signage is going in, and we're all in favor of trees always. So the more we can plant, the better off we are. I think you remember council is very supportive of that. And as we move forward, this is great. Thank you for incorporating that into this future plans.
Thank you.
Good comments, Mr. Councillor Carrick. Appreciate those. Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Akpata, support Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Procurement for 2021 fourth quarter report. Do we have Mr. Ferrero? Mr. Langwa. Okay.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. This is our standard quarterly report as part of the new procurement policy. In the last quarter, we did not have any significant contracts that were over $50,000. So this is just a report to explain so. And the next quarter, we'll probably have some items to report.
Thank you, Mr. Langwa, for telling us we didn't buy anything over 50,000 last quarter. Motion to receive. Councillor Reno, Councillor Deputy Mayor Malash, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Motion to receive BRCA's annual report. Councillor Carrick, Councillor Dicio Spagnolo, any questions? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Bylaws. We have one bylaw, 8666. You have a question?
Mayor Bondi,
Yes.
we have a summary of reports, number 4.
Sure.
Please, thank you.
Sorry, moved my paper in the wrong way. Okay, summary reports to council. Thank you. Motion to receive, Deputy Mayor Malash, support Councillor Carrick, all in favor? That carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And bylaw 1, 8666, all 3 readings. Councillor Reno, Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Council questions. We have Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is a question that's going to go to Ms. Finero. Ms. Finero, I recently had a phone call with a gentleman in the municipality who coaches basketball, who's interested in seeing what he can do to improve some of the outside basketball facilities. And I told him that, as far as the town is concerned, our recreation is something that we value, and we're always interested to input. I believe he may be watching. Can you speak to some of the plans or the process that the citizen would have to take to engage municipality, please, ma'am?
I see Mr. Mara has joined us.
Thank you, Councilor Akpata, for the question. Certainly, through the times when we go through the parks rebuilds, we take a look at what is needed and what we can add into various parks. Over the last few years, we have done a number of park improvements. Heritage Park, we have provided a number of courts there that weren't there previous, and we did some rebuilding of the existing basketball court at that location. We're currently working on finalizing St. Clair Park, which will occur in the spring of this year. And that actual park did not have a basketball court where we added in a basketball court. So we are expanding slowly. We take a look at the parks in their entirety as we rebuild the park and see if there's an opportunity for various components to add in and enhance the level of service in some of the parks. As council is aware, we do have a basketball court that is down at the Front Road Park. That was planned to be rebuilt, and there was a little bit different direction that occurred with respect to that. So certainly, as we get into to that rebuild down in the Front Road area on the Front Road Park, we will take a look at where the best suited spot is for a new basketball court and those sand volleyball courts. But certainly that is going to be something that that gets folded into future year processes. One of the things that we are anticipating to do in 2022 is update our current parks master plan, which was done in 2015. The last go around was in 2015. It has been loosely followed, but not followed in its entirety. So certainly we are going to take a look at the parks master plan. I think we're at a point where we need to revisit and reconfirm the parks master plan to identify all the parks, where we want to put things, all the magnitude of costs, and when those parks should be rebuilt, and that will help guide council in the future as we bring forward those park rebuilds and what goes into what park and things of that nature. So as we get into a parks master plan, it will be a public process. That is probably the opportune time. So at this point, we would probably advise the resident to pay attention to when we do deal with the parks master plan. We anticipate that we want to try to commence that this year. It is going to take a bit of time to complete. So certainly that will be something that happens throughout 2022 and probably finalize into early 2023 and try to hopefully feed into some of future year budget discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. I appreciate your candid answer.
Sorry, Councillor Spagnuolo.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Mara. Just a question, if you could just clarify, I know with the recent snowfall, there has been some questions on the responsibility of sidewalks, trails. If you could just answer that, just so if there are any viewing audience that did ask these questions, and if they're watching, if you can just answer that, that would be great.
Thank you, Councilor Spagnuolo. That particular question is a good question relative to what we currently do with our town forces. Council a few years ago, I'd probably say about 8 years ago, approved a route and a sidewalk clearing program that would be completed by the town. As part of that process and policy, the town put in place a selected route to provide cleaning, and over the years, we have slowly continued to expand that route. So there are a number of sidewalks and trails that the town does, and those are identified in a policy that has been approved by council, and subsequently budget money has been approved to deal with those particular clearing of those particular trails and sidewalks. We do not do all the trails and sidewalks in town. There's a select route. We do primarily deal with all of the trails and sidewalks within our business core areas. Malden Road, if it's on our transit route, we deal with those areas. Front Road, for example, we deal with not all of Front Road, just where the transit bus goes. So there is a little bit of a route that is completed. With respect to all the other sidewalks in town that cross in front of private properties, it really comes down to neighbors being neighbors and providing that service. There is no particular bylaw that the town of LaSalle has that forces any resident to clear that sidewalk. So certainly we deal with those calls and complaints on a cyclical basis per se. Certainly our weather in this area, we tend to get large snowfall events. Then it tends to warm up a little bit, and every so often we get these cold snaps after a large event where the snow just doesn't leave us. And so that's where we're at today. We're dealing with those sorts of concerns that come forward. But certainly we try to help out where we can. But again, we do get the typical phone calls in this type of situation where people tend to ask for more or their specific sidewalks be added to the list. And we try to keep in the confines of the policy, the practice, and the budget that has been allocated for town forces to do that such work.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. Any other council questions? Seeing none, notices of motion. Seeing none, confirmatory bylaw, first reading. Councillor Reno, Councillor Spagnuolo, all in favor? That carries. Second reading, Councillor Akpada, Councillor Carrick, all in favor? That carries. And third and final reading, we have Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? That carries. You have the schedule of meetings. Good night, everyone. Thank you, viewing audience, for joining us. Have a great night and stay safe, everyone.